This is Mueller's Funeral Home in Kenneth, Washington. Zip code is 99338. Used to be 99336, but it's 99337, 99338. Mr. Animal, Washington State Prosecutor. He has the ordinances of the detained services of the Benton County Justice Department, and he's a Washington State Prosecutor. Now, we got 3 ties on. This is the Washington State Prosecutor Administration Office COVID-19. Remember the Class A uniform, Mr. Abraham Lincoln himself. George Washington, the first President of the United States, number 42, afraid of Washington. And then the 3rd tie. Now this COVID-19 policy regulation service center that they have. 1, 2, 3. Now, 3 strikes you're out law here in Washington State. It means anything violent, anything and miss havoc out of way, every shape or way for at Mueller's Funeral Home. This parking lot has, of course, lines, parallel parking lines, array of service of parking arrangement at Mueller's Funeral Home, and it overlooks Rest Haven, and also looks over Mueller's Funeral Home brick Mueller's advertisement, and the mausoleum overlooks the mausoleum. Now this service center at the Mueller's Funeral Home at 1401 South Union carries the COVID-19 policy regulations. Now, Katie, Bernie, Randall. Now Randall, Katie, and Randall Katie is a Washington State Trooper at the Washington State Patrol in Kennewick on Law Lane in Kennewick, Washington. Now this service center they have at the COVID-19 policy regulation serving Mr. J. Mueller. Mueller's Funeral Home, we have an array of services of these arrangements. The Department of Motor Vehicles, we're in Andy Miller's office giving Mrs. Andy Miller, Mr. Andy Miller, Mrs. Taylor, U.S. Marshal Taylor, Mrs. Taylor, and Little Taylor copies of the tax forms. Mueller's Funeral Home has a deposit inquiry manifest of the vault. There's a bank vault. There's many vaults inside the bank account services that has a streamline on YouTube, on URL, Administration Office at Mueller's Funeral Home. Now, 1401 South Union, Kenneth, Washington, J. Mueller's Funeral Home. Mueller's Funeral Home. Here's the COVID-19. You got a basement. You got a walkway entrance desk. Manifest records of the service center applying the COVID-19 policy regulation services. We're at the City Hall filling paperwork out, and we're at in Andy Miller's office. The paperwork we got from City Hall. We recorded information from the Kennewick City Hall inside the police station, and also the trios. Kennewick General Hospital. That pertains to manifest records and medical records we have here at the bottom of the basement. Now, at the bottom of the basement, we have a refrigeration for the dead bodies. And the dead bodies have the bodies inside the refrigerator. Here's the COVID-19 policy regulations and services. The cause of death and the reasoning why. Caskets, urns, cardboard, crate for $500, cardboard for $100, crematorium for $2,000, mausoleum for $10,000, and then urns, caskets are available. Of course, the caskets and urns are available. And that's such a way of matter that the service center of the parking arrangement, Department of Motor Vehicles, of course, Mrs. Bernie Randall, that's Katie Randall Bernie, Washington State Patrol Office in Law Lane. We call her all the time. Now we have a cemetery here from Mueller's Funeral Home in Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco, and they do travel. We got a garage, we got a hearse that has an array of services applying the COVID-19 policy regulations and service to the fullest. The administration office gives the COVID-19 policy regulation has a parallel parking arrangement. So you can take your testing for your CDL testing with the caskets, the urns, the concrete liners, the monarchs, the double depth liners, and back it in with the CDL truck, back it in rear end it, and send administration office COVID-19 policy regulation service center. And then we have the crematorium to offload it into the crematorium. We got the bodies inside the refrigeration, the freezer, which keeps the refrigerations and cardboard box, a crate, a casket, its urn, and the Kenneth Police Department. We have this forms we filled out with Mr. Anna Miller, and also the U.S. Marshal's office at 825 Jadwin Federal Courthouse. That's appeals office. The sheriff's office, we have a little lady recorded on URL. We got the Constitution and Benton County Justice Department, and also the judges' chambers, and also the judges. This is a crematorium office, and then we have a freezer and a lock-in for the bodies. And here, the transport. We have the transport. Of course, we have transport. There's Lola, there's Berta, there's Fabian, there's Eric Benson, there's Leonard Bambach, there's Dale Johnson. So we got a little parking arrangement. We come in here. We got a little hearse. We drive that hearse. We got Department of Motor Vehicles. Why? Olympia staff members. First name, last name, snapshot. The Department of Licensed Vehicles. They take pictures every week of Felix Barela. Why? So much property raised service at Mueller's Tri-City Herald, and Tri-City Herald carries the COVID-19 policy regulations. We got Mr. McKinnon, 704 East Olive, Mueller's Tri-City Funeral, Ms. Rhonda Kaiser Funeral, Administration Office, COVID-19 policy regulation and services at the Administration Office. Now, Eric Benson's a tall man. Fabian Barela, he's a big man. You know, we go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and we take our Class A uniform and a portrait. We go to the Washington State Army Division, 161st Infantry Cab. There's a battalion, and there's a infantry. Mrs. Kim Wayman and SOS WAGov Corps, and also Miss Kim Wayman and Steve Hobbs, our Secretary of State of Olympia, Washington. No, Steve Hobbs comes from Kosovo. He got a job. He's live behind enemy lines. We got 3 ties here. Now, Benton County Justice Department, Mr. Andrew Miller, Washington State Prosecutor, has been prosecutor for Washington State for a long time. Ever since Fabian Barela was deceived out of a vagina, and Roberta Barela was deceased, and her body was taken here at Mueller's Funeral Home, like John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy's body was detained, taken in, and drug out. He was shot in the head, but he was shot several times with the wounded head. Also the hearse. We have a hearse that was parked here long time ago. It's not here no more because Roberta Barela passed away. Jay Mueller, he still drives around in a white Suburban with Felix Barela, and a Denelli, D-E-N, Denelli GMC with Felix Barela. Why? Because I have credit, good credit. I have no record, no criminal manifest. We got a mortuary, we got a crematorium, we got Roberta's Barela and Lola Hernandez's body. We got John Hernandez, Samuel Hernandez's body in here. That's the United States Marine One and Air Force One. We got Doomsday's plane from Nebraska in here. We got Jay Mueller's funeral home, Mueller's funeral home. We got a portrait of Mueller's face, a portrait above the Mueller's crematorium services and caskets and urns and refrigerations and desktops and the garage. Because John F. Kennedy, a long time ago, you have to have a birth certificate ownership, which I do. Ownership carries the COVID-19 policy regulation. Her name's Amy Bloden from DHCPS office in Olympia office. And also the CPS DHS office carries the COVID-19 policy regulations for cause of death. The property arrangement and services that carry COVID-19 policy regulations for the administration office carries the administration office to its most humane services, depleting, dealing, compromising, nursing, and bringing the foundation back to its affirmative action. And this is the hearse, this is the garage. Now, Department of Motor Vehicles takes pictures of everything, every week, 6 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Same with the bank. Same with the 8131 Clemson Social Security office, which Social Security agencies come in here, take photographs, recorded information, Social Security card, first name, last name, signatures. You're only allowed 10 Social Security cards in your lifetime. And the Social Security cards are embedded into the Mueller's Funeral Cemetery office at the administration office at 7112 West Okanagan Place, Kenneth, Washington, which is Andy Miller. They got death certificate, the various services, his signature. Mr. James Norman Manus, he's a Marine. He's looking for his death certificate and raised services, which will happen down the road. A General in the Marine Corps, and Mr. Mark Miley Andrew of the Army, because we have the United States Army Division in Moses Lake, Washington. This entrance door from the cemetery is Jay Mueller, Mr. Barela, Felix Barela, and Mr. Fabian Barela, and also Lola Hernandez, Samuel Hernandez, and Daniel Hernandez, and also Daniel Hernandez. There's three Dans. There's three Daniel Hernandez. There's Samuel Hernandez. There's some Marines, a gigantic area of Marines. United States Army on this side, Mr. Mark Miley Andrew, and also Mrs. Patty Mary Mrs. Cantwell. That's adjacent to the hearse for communication service transport to Nebraska, transport to Texas. And that's my face, my conversation. And then driving straight to California. This is the hearse. This is the garage. This is the equipment. This is the survey equipment. And all the Mueller's Tri-City funeral homes. And we got a parking arraignment. We got a driveway. Now we recorded the Kenneth Police Department and also this City Hall. We recorded the people that started the problem at 1401 South Union Mueller's Tri-City Funeral Home. The garage, the services, the increments of society, the instruments of service, the COVID-19 policy regulation and services, and also the service they have at Mueller's Funeral Tri-City Funeral Home. You know, people like making things up and placing people in custody that don't have no warrants outside, warrants for arrest, and they make shit up. You know, they think Mueller's, or Jay Mueller, or Amy Mueller, or there are records of the Tri-City held and services for the ownerships and services from the day of birth out of vagina at 1401 South Mueller's Tri-City Funeral Home. We have caskets, we got urns, we got bodies, we got, first President of the United States, George Washington himself on the property, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. We have Grant, Lee, we got the Cavalry, we got the 101st, we got Virginia, West Virginia, Civil War, World War I. We got before World War I, it was epidemics like COVID-19 policy regulations. When George Washington was the president, they experienced the flu, eczema, black plague, and Ebola, and also the swine flu, which is now called the COVID-19 policy regulations. Now this place overlooks Rest Haven, the mausoleum, which is the service they have is John F. Kennedy. And then they moved the Pentagon over to Forest Lawn, and then Forest Lawn to the Pentagon. And the Pentagon arraignment service has a brick wall, and it's all embedded into the COVID-19 policy regulation and services. Now the prosecutor and administration office of COVID-19 policy regulations and services download this information and their services to the states and civils and also people that are experiencing consequences of victims of consultations and services, restitution hearings, plea bargains and services. Want to go to plea bargain, then we go to murder 1, murder 2, premeditated murder, a search of service, all the way to the vehicle they drive, all the way to the inside the trunk of pulling a dead body out and put it into a gurney at Mueller's Funeral Home here in Kennewick, Washington, and here at Mueller's Funeral Home. And you go to Kennewick City Hall, Richland City Hall, description of the live footage of a officer wearing a uniform and partake in his service of making things up and situation partake. You gotta get the recorded information. So when you drive the vehicle into the driving parking lot, and that would be a police officer, or you call the state patrol units, you call Mr. Andy Miller, prosecutor, and you record all that footage of them driving into your parking lot, into your array service, into your funeral home, into the array domain services of ownership, all the way into the Benton County Justice Department, into Andy Miller's office, and also into the Department of Motor Vehicles. And you record all that information. Mr. McKenneth's law firm, and Mr. Sackman law firm in Othello, Mr. McKenna 740 East Olive, Mr. Chadwick, Mr. George Washington House, and Mr. J. Mueller himself, which is immediate 20 George Washington, President of the United States of America. John F. Kennedy went through his door at one time. 2 months later, he was executed in downtown Texas. If you don't got a birth certificate stating that the Texas Array Services, the hearse that Mr. John F. Kennedy was put in, which was parked here. Now, the hearse was parked right here. A storage container was here at one time. That storage container is not here anymore. Why? Well, I got a settlement. I got a race service. I got Lola Hernandez, Ivanka Barela, Jay Mueller. I got the Washington State Lottery. I got the Motor Vehicles, Restitution Hearings and Services and Civil Complaints and Services Center. That's like 6 days a week. Superior Court, District Court, and Supreme Justice Department, and 825 Jadwin, Richland, Washington. Carrying the COVID-19 policy, regulations, and services. So you have these air conditioners, you got the entryway doorway. We got the awning, the extension services of the COVID-19 policy, regulations, services. And then we got a mailbox here with the address, first name, last name, and also the money and transactions. You're fucking weird. Now, J. Miller Funeral, 1401 South Union, Kenneth, Washington, 99336. Says 1979, Tri-Cities Funeral. Now, the services said on the birth certificates in 1972, Nebraska and Texas. The Tri-City Herald established a Tri-City Herald printing company where John F. Kennedy entered this building. And through the garage and expansion and service, the COVID-19 policy regulation, driving in the parking. Back then it was just a field with a bunch of weeds. Now we got a sign that says 1401 Mueller's Tri-City Funeral Home on it. COVID-19 policy regulation and service on it. With the administration COVID and with the J. Mueller signature on it. Of course, J. Mueller's signature, Mr. Andy Miller, Washington State Prosecutor's signature. 14 Human Resources, and we got the death certificate and our birth certificate, array of services. And the COVID-19 policy, regulation, and services applying to administration office. And the COVID-19 policy, regulation services, the cemetery, and services for accounting and booking services for the administration office here in the funeral home here at Mueller's Funeral Home. And the service applying to COVID-19, the transaction, EFT, the manufacturer records, the first, last name. Around the county, there's funeral at the administration office at Pioneer Way, and McKenna Law Firm administration office, and all George Washington House. And ownership and services embedded.